Welcome to the Adam Stevens Coaching Podcast, where we explore all things life and well-being. Each week, I create content and have conversations that will help you create the mindset and the habits for lasting health and happiness. Well, hello, friends. It's December the 14th, 2021, and this is episode 24, and it is an interview with my good friend Tess Miller. Tess's career portfolio consists of flute instruction at all levels, orchestral and chamber music performance, public speaking, writing, therapeutic music performance, and life coaching. Through her seminar and coaching business, Wings Unfolded LLC, Tess helps people who love what they're doing but aren't sure where it's going. Aside from her professional life, Tess is also a wife, mother, sister, daughter, friend, runner, gardener, thinker, and meditator. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. We recorded it last week. It was great. It was a lot of fun. And I definitely think we'll be seeing more of Tess on the podcast next year. She's got some great stuff to say. We had a lot of fun. It was a great conversation. All right. So I'm here with my friend Tess. Tess, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good.
Awesome.
Well, cool. So I wanted to fill everybody in on what's going on with you and why I wanted you on the podcast. So my first question for you was, who are you and what projects are you currently working on?
Well, my name is Tess, and I am a core energy coach and a therapeutic musician, a professional musician. I play the flute primarily in that realm, and I'm also a public speaker, a writer, and most recently a level 2 Reiki practitioner. So
Wow. How'd you get into Reiki?
Well, I've had Reiki. I've gone to Reiki practitioners before and really believe in the power of moving that energy. Because emotions are energy in motion, and especially in the times in my life when I've physically felt the emotions stuck in my body. Generally, for me, it's like in the chest or in the throat. So going to a Reiki practitioner really helped me get that stuff moving, but also in the process of that, it allowed some of the emotions to come up so I could really clearly work with them and process things that I was probably pushing down for quite a long time. So I got into it that way. A good friend of mine, and actually the woman who shares office space with me in downtown St. John's, she's a Reiki practitioner, and I decided to study with her. So
That's
yeah.
cool. I've only gone through that once. There was a massage place that offered it, and I got like 10 minutes at the end of a massage. Maybe 10 years ago, I remember. It was a very hippy dippy woman. She was very cool. And I remember after the session, I came out to the lobby to pay, and she was like, "I need to talk to you." And she was like, "You don't know how to breathe." And she like sat me down and was teaching me about the depth of breathing. She's like, "I want you to learn to breathe into your belly." She was a very interesting person. She had really good energy.
Yeah. Oh, neat. Yeah, those are great experiences. Yeah, and
Well, cool.
otherwise, other projects that I'm working on. I mentioned my office space downtown. It's actually a studio. That's kind of my main project right now, is kind of getting that up and running and figuring out what that's going to look like and be like. My hope is that it's going to be a space where coaching clients can come, and I've been really incorporating a lot more sound into my coaching practice as I ask people questions and emotions come up. I use my crystal singing bowls to kind of help support them in those
Mm-hmm.
moments. And it's really interesting to see what comes up and how deep people are able to go with the sound, or maybe because of the sound. I'm not entirely sure. But so, yeah, that's the
Well,
main thing
cool.
recently.
Well, that was on my list of questions too. What is therapeutic sound? If you want to kind of talk about how you feel about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess I have to start back from, my training as a classical musician. I always gravitated towards music and sound from a very young age and knew that it had very therapeutic properties for myself. I think that's why I always enjoyed practicing. I was never one of those kids that you had to tell them to practice. I just always wanted to do it because it made me feel good. Part of it was mastering certain passages in the music, but I think the other part of it was just the sound itself, the vibration. And so, years after I'd gotten a doctorate in music performance, I was thinking about, um, aspects of my career that I really didn't like and aspects of my career that I really did like, and thinking about how those different aspects did or did not align with my concept of myself. And when I
Mm-hmm.
thought about the concerts that I loved playing in, they were the ones that really took people to a deeper understanding of themselves. And I remembered that one of the things I had wanted to do as a young person was play music in hospitals. But that seemed like such an outlandish idea. Like, what, who would allow that to happen? Who would want
Mm-hmm.
that? Maybe I'm the only one that really would want music played for me in a hospital setting. But then I learned about the Music for Healing and Transition program, MHTP, and they train people, not just musicians, but people who are maybe amateur musicians who are devoted to the idea of creating a therapeutic healing environment for people in hospital settings or hospice settings, so that their bodies can really return to that relaxation response, so their bodies can actually start to heal. And if you've ever been in a hospital, which I know you have, they're not exactly the most relaxing environments all the time. They can be quite noisy and busy and scary. Um, and so, I looked into this program and realized, yes, this is what I want to do more with my music. I love the idea of using music to help somebody get kick-started into that relaxation response. So I went through the training and I've been playing at a hospital in Lansing, Michigan, where I live near Lansing, Michigan. Um, and and then the sound healing started more recently for me. And again, the
Mm-hmm.
idea, same with therapeutic music, the idea is that everything is vibration. All material
Mm-hmm.
objects, all colors are vibration. And of course, sound is a vibration. We're all just made up of a whole bunch of waves, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with emotion. Emotion, like I said earlier, can get stuck in the body. And with therapeutic sound, which, I generally use crystal bowls that are pitched. They have very definite pitches, but I have 7 different pitches that align with the chakra system, the 7 primary energy centers in the
Mm-hmm.
body.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just been, finding that creating these sounds for people really helps them understand themselves on a deeper level. I know it does for me if I'm chanting on a certain tone in my meditation, or if I'm listening to a therapeutic sound meditation, it helps me focus in a little bit more and cut through the noise of
Mm-hmm.
any extraneous thoughts that are getting in the way of what's really happening under the surface. Um, and it just brings comfort, right? Like that sound
Mm-hmm.
just can really help people relax their muscles. And when their body is more relaxed, then their mind, their thoughts, and their emotions can be a little bit more relaxed too.
Yeah.
So that's therapeutic music and sound.
Yeah, I do a lot actually with root chakra stuff. So all over online, you can find root tones, and some of them, they'll have that vibration, or I guess binaurals and different stuff. So there's definitely, like, I have found a good way for me to de-stress is to use the root tones. Some of the higher frequency stuff has a tendency to make me a little ADD, but the root stuff is really that deeper vibrations. They're really cool, and I incorporate a lot of that with the breath work too. Like, I mean, so
Yeah.
anxiety is like the buzzword of the last few years, and probably always has been, but I do think it's actually just primal in nature. It's an evolutionary thing, right? Because we can't control our circumstances all the time. So I think getting back in touch really, with literally where we are, like in our pelvis, our feet, whatever, on the ground, and being attached to the earth. I really, that concept's very useful to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, anxiety is one of those experiences that tends to take people out of their bodies, right? Um, and I think my my idea around that is that I'm not sure that our human bodies are evolved yet to handle the the amount of technology that we have and the fast pace of our
Mm-hmm.
lives. And I've wondered if maybe the increase in awareness around anxiety hasn't been because we're all grappling with the pace of our lives and the decisions that we not only make but seemingly have to make, like do I want my child to be exposed to the internet yet? Do I want more technology in my life? Can I, get away with less technology in my life? Um, so I think, there's a lot of grappling with that and how our physical bodies interact with a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the newer technologies that we're facing.
Yeah, I don't think we know how that stuff's happened. I don't think we know at all. I'm glad there's awareness, right? I think we're in that phase where we created something and we're like, whoa, is this okay? You know?
Right. Right. Yeah. Like
So I
how
want to
many
sort of,
Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, how many times have people in our generation said something along the lines of, well, they didn't have this technology when I was growing up. I think about that all the time when I think about my son having, basically the whole world at his fingertips when he has his phone or his computer out. Um, and I end up saying something really ancient, like, if I wanted to find that information when I was your age, I'd have to go to the library.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
It's just changed so quickly.
Well, I think too, you have to think, and we both learned this when we learned core energy, is that there are causes and effects. There's an effect to every cause, and then some of those effects become causes of other things, right? So I think technology in some ways has made life really incredible, right? Like,
Yeah.
basically with a phone and a webcam and a laptop, I'm able to run a coaching business. I'm running a wellness business. So the technology is really cool in that way. I think we just have to figure out. So there's some effects that are really good, and then there's other effects that, yeah, we need to put our heads together and figure that part out, right? So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
well, I wanted to pivot so we can talk about your book, because
Sure.
I actually have a copy. I actually have a copy right here. I was reading some of it today.
Awesome.
So why don't you tell us about the book and how the book started and how you're promoting it right now?
Yeah, so it was about a year before the pandemic started, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I was in this place where I had just become a coach and I was doing a little bit of coaching and just feeling unsure about what my next steps were going to be with that. Um, I still loved aspects of the work that I was doing, performing and doing therapeutic music, and I loved coaching, but how was it all gonna play out? And I woke up in the middle of the night and my mind was trying to figure it out like it does in the middle of the night with, either it's generally not helpful things when it's trying to figure it out in the middle of the night. But all of a sudden I had the thought, be nice if there was a book about being stuck. And then I realized the book of Stuck is actually a great book for me to write, because I feel like I've been stuck in so many different times of my life, usually around transition periods where I'm trying to figure out what are my next best steps. And so I finally went back to sleep, and I woke up the next morning and decided I'm going to a cafe and I'm going to really think about this idea of writing a book. Within an hour, I had an outline for the entire book. And
Mm-hmm.
so, for whatever reason, the idea for this book, I think, had been percolating in the background of my mind for a lot longer than I was aware of. But once the outline was there, I was really, really excited. And then I didn't do anything with it because life, like there was
Mm-hmm.
just,
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to stay on top of all of the performing and teaching and playing music at the hospital and, doing all of that. And then the pandemic happened. And that sort of became like an irony in itself. Like, here we were all stuck, and I have this idea to write a book about being stuck. And, you know, I, it was just pretty obvious to me. All right, now that we're all stuck, it's time for me to write about being stuck. So I spent the time during the pandemic. I weave in some of the pandemic into the book, but the book is not about the pandemic at all. It's just
Mm-hmm.
kind of a nice little anecdote from time to time, um, and it really helped me. Having that time really helped me process some of the moments in my life when I was really stuck, and kind of made me look back on, well, what did I do in those times? And how did I know what to do and when to do what I did? And then, of course, how does my coach training play into all of this? Like, how would I apply what I've learned being a core energy coach to the concept of being stuck and getting unstuck? So, over the course of the pandemic, I wrote it. It was published on June 1st of 2021. And I am promoting it right now primarily through just doing various book talks, mostly around my town of St. John's and in Lansing. And I've done some things online, talking to people about it. But I've really had a lot of fun, you know, introducing it to people and then getting feedback from them about, oh my gosh, I I'm starting to do the exercises and they're really helpful. And so it's been really fun to see how people are interacting with the book, because I wanted it to be fun. So it's always really
Mm-hmm.
nice when
Mm-hmm.
people reflect back that, oh yeah, this is really fun, because it's not fun to know that you're stuck or in a place of uncertainty and not knowing what to do next. But if you can have a way, kind of a step by step process of understanding what that experience is, and to know that there are some amazing gifts in the experience of being stuck, then you can kind of be with that experience a little bit more. It's more motivating to be in the experience of stuck. So that's what I was really hoping my book would would do for people is just help them to really embody being stuck until they start coming up with new answers and new solutions to not be stuck anymore.
So the book starts out with your stuck moment, your sort of like hitting bottom moment with burnout. And I was wondering if you could take us, like, maybe tell us how you led up to that. And then what was your moment that you were
Yeah.
like, what was your kind of hitting bottom moment with that?
So this was about, I think this was in 2017 or 18. I think it was in 2018. It doesn't matter. But it's a few years ago. And I was at the time teaching at three small private colleges, a community music school, playing at the hospital 2 to 3 days a week, and performing with an orchestra one weekend a month, but also freelancing. So whenever somebody would need a flutist for some gig, I would say, yes, sure, I'll do that. So it really felt like I was on this constant hamster wheel of got to do this now, got to do this. You know, every day I would get in the shower and I would go through the list of, okay, today I have this and this and this and this and this. Tomorrow I have this and this and, and I would just constantly be going through that Rolodex of all of the activities that I had going on. And I enjoyed all of it, but it was way too much. And I had grown up in I guess, the kind of career culture, I'll put it that way, that really promoted the idea of you have to say yes to everything. If you want to be a viable career musician, you have to say yes to everything. And I believed that for far longer than for longer than was really healthy for me. And it was one day, it was actually the first day of the semester, fall semester. I'd had a summer break where, I spent the whole summer working, of course. And I went to my first small private college job of the day. I had two jobs that I was going to that day. They were not too far away from each other. And I went to the first one, and a student came in and said that she had suddenly made the decision, without talking to me about it, she'd suddenly made the decision to no longer be a music major, and she was going to step into this whole new career for herself. And she was so, like, she seemed so excited and happy about it. And I was really excited and happy for her because my experience with her had been that she wasn't very happy as a music major. And so I was very excited and happy for her. She left, and I taught the rest of my students for the day. I got in my car to go to my next job, and I completely broke down sobbing. And at first, it made no sense to me. Why am I sobbing right now? That nothing has happened. Nothing bad has happened. There's nothing quote unquote wrong. Why am I sobbing right now? And it did not really make sense to me for a long time. I just had hit rock bottom out of the blue to me. Looking back on it, the warning signs were there, but I was just not paying attention to them. And so it took me several weeks of like tremendous depression and sadness and reflection to really figure out, oh, what was going on for me in that moment was that while I was happy for my student, I was also incredibly jealous that she was so clear about what she was aligning with in her life in that moment. And I wished that I had felt that way too, because I never had really thought about what do I like knowing who I am, what do I really align with? I had always made my decisions on what am I good at? What what have I been doing that I have found success in? I'll just keep doing that. But I never really asked myself the question of, well, does this really align with me? Does this really make me, is this where my heart wants me to go? And so that's when I realized it was time for me to let go of, some of my work. I kept a lot of it because, I needed to. Still need to pay bills and eat and stuff like that. But I let go of enough of it that I was able to have some time to do some deep dive journal work to really I was meditating before then, but not consistently. So I really upped my
Mm-hmm.
meditation at that point. And I started paying more attention to the thoughts that I was having and really checking in with, well, when I have that thought, how does that make me feel? And is that really helping me? Is that really healthy? What do I really want to do? And, you know, so it was really in that moment that I realized I was really, really stuck, but I needed to be stuck. I needed to be in that space of, oh my gosh, I haven't really been paying attention to my inner self this whole time. And this stuckness is giving me the opportunity to do that. This is a blessing. This is happening for me, not to me. And from there, I realized I was not teaching from the space that I wanted to be teaching from my students. And that's what led me to coaching because I really wanted to I I I looked back on the best teaching experiences I had had and found that the best ones were when I really felt like I could allow my students to see themselves. Like I could open up that space for them to really start pondering who they are and figuring out what they want for themselves. And I realized, well, wait a minute, that sounds like a coach. Maybe I should really look into developing that skill. So that's what led me to coach training and then ultimately getting unstuck in that stuck
Mm-hmm.
scenario.
Yeah. Well, it's cool. I mean, my situation mirrors yours in a lot of ways too, because in 2018, I was looking really good on paper. I was in medical sales, was doing really well, but like just totally not in line with my core values, my skill sets. And I had all this stuff that I wanted to accomplish. And I kind of hit that midlife, like, am I on a path that I want to spend the rest of my life doing, you know? And I think in my situation, I didn't work really full time for about 6 months. And I found initially free time makes the stucky feeling go away, but it doesn't solve the problem, right?
Yeah.
I think really clarity, life purpose, and like being on path with your life purpose, for me, is what really fixes burnout.
Yeah.
You know, because if I know where I'm heading, I can sort of look at my processes in life and say, well, does this serve where I want to go after some soul searching, after the reflection, after being coached, after meditating? Does this course of action and do the attitudes and mindset I currently have, do they serve the overall purpose? So I think for me, the real art of moving beyond that was getting really clear about my purpose, right? And even I was looking, as I read the beginning of the book, I was looking at your, like, you have kind of like a checklist of like the stuck like traits, right? And when I read them, I was thinking about, if I looked at my life 2018 or even 2020, when I was initially launching my business and like I bought adamstevenscoaching.com, if I looked at those check marks, I was totally stuck. But the beauty of it was, at the beginning of this year, I started to take massive action in different areas of my life, which involved design work, creativity, coaching more, writing, all this stuff, podcasting. And I found that now I don't feel stuck at all, right? Because all of my energy is going to things that are really meaningful for me and are pushing me towards that purpose. So, um, what are your thoughts there on the difference between free time or just like hitting the off ramp? Oh, I got to get out of here versus really finding the purpose. How does the purpose unlock the stuck versus just free time?
Well, I think for me, I wasn't to purpose yet. You know, like that
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I was blindsided by my burnout. And so
Mm-hmm.
I had to figure out, wait, what just happened? You know, so it was
Mm-hmm.
really, there was a process for me that I needed to allow to unfold. And I was pretty methodical. You know, I've always been that kind of person though. I've always been interested in personal development and pretty driven to understand myself on a deeper level. And so I used that free time very purposefully. Maybe that is my
Mm-hmm.
purpose. I don't know. You know, my purpose is
Mm-hmm.
getting to know
Yeah.
myself. And so, you know, my actions in that moment, while to an outsider might have looked like, well, she's just kind of lollygagging around, isn't she? In
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
reality, what was happening was I was asking myself, I was being like a coach to myself. I was asking myself a lot of questions. You know, what got you to this point? How are you feeling? Like, how did you feel leading up to that point? Um, what what decisions have you made that haven't aligned with who you are? Wait, who am I exactly? What are my core values? You know, I like one
Mm-hmm.
question would lead to the next, and I just kept pounding away at it until, you know, there was this massive moment of clarity for me when I realized, oh my gosh, it's the way I'm teaching. It's the way that I'm being. I don't want to be that way. And um and so that for me gave me the information I needed to know what action I wanted to take, because before then I had no idea. I didn't know what my purpose was yet, and I didn't know yet how I was going to get there. I had to let that process happen.
Well, what would you say to someone who feels stuck now?
I would definitely give them my book. And um, I would I would really ask them, you know, well, what does your stuck feel like? You know, what has contributed to it? What do you think is keeping you there? And, you know, really help them get to the core of maybe some of the things they've been pushing away, because that was one of the things that I had to realize, is that I was really a master at pushing away the things that I didn't want to look at, or that I thought society was telling me you shouldn't really pay attention to that. That's not a real thing. Like making choices that are in alignment with me. That seemed so like, you know, what kind of privileged mess are you that you have to think about that? But at the same time, it really is important, you know, and I had to
Mm-hmm.
do a lot of work to get myself there. Like, no, it's really important and okay for me to be thinking about what is in alignment with me, because I don't have to be like everybody else. And I think for a lot of people, that stuckness can happen because they're trying to do the things and make the decisions that they think they should be doing, and, you know, taking the actions that they think they should be taking, when really something else inside them is trying to pull them in another direction, but they're trying to ignore
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So it would really
Mm-hmm.
be a process, you know, working with someone who's stuck. It would be a process of figuring out, who are you really doing your life for, and how's that working out for you? And then who are you really?
Yeah, it's beautiful. And when I read the traits list, there was one, and maybe I'm reading into this, but it was that the inability to answer the question, what do I want? Or the inability to let yourself think about what you really wanted was like one of the traits.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think there are a lot of people who um, aren't ready to let themselves think about, what would make me happy. Just that step of allowing yourself the moment to dream. That came up for me one time. I was having a conversation with a friend years and years ago about dreaming, not like when you're asleep dreaming, but
Mm-hmm.
sitting down and really visualizing, dreaming about your future life. And that was something that I never enjoyed doing. I didn't like doing that because I liked to just kind of see how my life would unfold. I still have a tendency to do that. When I really think about it, I have a tendency to just want to be a wait and see kind of person. But then I'm not really thinking about, well, what lights me up? What makes me happy? And how could I move towards doing more of those things that light me up and make me happy? When does my heart get to sing? When does that happen in my life? And I've had to come to that reckoning of, oh, I really do need to allow myself to dream, because if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not dreaming about my potential life, then I'm not making decisions that are really making my heart happy.
Yeah, I think that's cool too. One of the things that I'm working with, that I've been working with a lot over the last year or so, is the idea that the intuition and all the symbolism and the dreaming and the really like creative pursuits, just because I noodle on something and think about it or even take some action on it, doesn't mean it has to come to fruition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have a little list on my phone of ideas, and a lot of times I'll work on ideas and then I'll look a week later and I'll say, no, I don't want to really do that. But the ones that stick around for 2 3 weeks, like a month, that are still, that's when I'm like, oh, this is a great idea. And if I didn't
Yeah.
dream big, and if I wasn't staring into a skillet while searing chicken breast at dinner, thinking, "Oh, I should write this blog post," or literally the podcast came out of, "I'll do a podcast." One of my friends asked me. I said, "I don't have a microphone." He was like, "Do you have earbuds? I mean, you could record a podcast." So it was just those ideas and having the right inspiration and having the right amount of support and love around you to really dream big. I think that's a big deal.
Right. Well, and I love what you just said about not all ideas are worth completing, or you shouldn't have to complete every single idea that you have. That is something that, for me personally, I've grappled with a lot because I am a finisher. If I start something, I want to finish it, but then, I've seen now where that leads me. I can connect the dots now and say, oh, that made me unhealthy. That made me unhappy. Maybe I don't have to finish everything. So that's been a big project of mine over the course of 2021, is starting things and not finishing them, letting them go when I realize, oh, I thought I was interested in this and I'm not anymore. And it has given me a sense of freedom of creation. Just like an artist, if there's something that they don't like on the canvas, they don't throw the whole painting away. They just paint over it. You just modify
Mm-hmm.
it,
Yeah,
make
yeah,
it into something
yeah.
else.
Mm-hmm. Well, cool. Well, I want to give you an opportunity before we wind down to tell us where we can find you online. But I have one more really fun question before we end. What's your favorite concert of all time? I ask people that all the time.
This one is so hard. The first thing that came to mind was any of the concerts that I went to with a Beatle in it. I'm a huge Beatles fan, and I got to see Paul McCartney for the first time when I was in middle school. And oh my gosh, the video clips of the teenagers going out of their mind when the
Yeah, yeah,
Beatles
yeah.
walk out. That was me when Paul McCartney walked out on stage, and he was about this big. like, but it didn't matter because it was just so thrilling to be able to see a Beatle. And then I got to see Ringo Starr. It was always a dream of mine to see George Harrison, but of course, he died,
Yeah.
and it was
Hmm.
never going to be to see John Lennon. But those times that
Hmm.
I've been able to see the Beatles, the Beatles are a band that really always remind me of who I am. And so to actually see them in person is it's just such a validating experience. So
Hmm.
I guess that would be my answer.
My wife and I got to see Paul McCartney on the, I forget what it was, back in the USSA tour, or not the USSR, the USA tour. It was one of the ones, maybe 2004 or 2005. And I just
Yeah.
remember, like, I think he said, they opened with, you know, I don't know why you don't say goodbye, why you say hello. That song, I forget what the exact
Yeah.
title of the song is, but I remember, like, it was like all this energy, and the moment he hit that chorus, like the whole crowd just said go go go, and then like he played Jet as the second song. It was like so much energy. It was like
Yeah.
everybody had been sitting in the arena just kind of waiting, lights go down. It was like so much energy. He was so amazing live.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Good show.
yeah. Well, cool. I wanted to ask you before we end, how do you work with people? So someone's stuck and they're like, I'm going to work with Tess Miller. How do you work with people? Do you work by the month? Do you sell a package? Or how do you do this?
So that is kind of in transition for me right now. Speaking of transitions, I'm working that out since I'm opening up that storefront, and I've literally just started using sound as a part of my offerings in conjunction with coaching. And so I am finding that it really depends on the client. So right now I'm kind of in this nebulous land of leaving it up to them. Like what kind of stuck are we talking about? Like we'll talk about,
Mm.
what kind of stuck is it? Is it like a project? Like I have this idea for a project, but I don't know where to go with it. That is going to probably take less time than I need to make a career change. I'm totally, so generally the career change kind of stuck would be something that it happens over the course of 3 or 6 months. With time, like once a week, but maybe some flexibility in there to give people the time to
Mm-hmm.
do the inner work, like
Mm-hmm.
journaling and figuring out what kind of self-care needs to happen in order to get them in a space where they can figure that all out. So I'm kind of in this space of, figuring out what works best for different scenarios. So I know a lot of other coaches are like, nope, I have my 3 month program and it's this package and this is what it is. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm finding that doesn't, one size doesn't fit all when it comes to stuck. So I love chatting with people about it. I have a complimentary session option that they can find on my website, which is just wingsunfolded.com. And they can contact me and set up a free session. If they're local, I love doing in person, but if not, Zoom is great too. um,
Mm-hmm.
and then we just kind of go from there and work out together what that package is going to look like for them. It's very personalized.
Okay. So you're on YouTube, right?
Hmm.
Is it Wings Unfolded on YouTube?
It's actually my name, Tess Miller. And
Mm-hmm.
the playlist, I have a couple different playlists on there. One of them is called Meditate with Friends, and it's me playing relaxing music and taking people through guided meditations and different topics. The other one is Growing in Uncertainty, and that's more of the coaching one where I contemplate different topics each week, and I talk with people how I've worked with different issues around being stuck. And those happen live on Facebook every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So I'll be doing one tonight. And otherwise, I post them on my YouTube playlist, Growing in Uncertainty, every week as well. So I have a whole bunch of videos there for people to watch too.
Well, cool. And for anybody listening or watching, I'll put all those links. We'll put all those links on the social channels when we share it. So
awesome. And I'm also on Instagram. So if they want to see pics and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thanks so much for your time.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was really a pleasure talking with you.
All right. And so for anybody listening, this episode will be out soon. So I think I'm going to try and get it out next week. So
awesome.
Thanks for being on.
Awesome. Thank you so much.